Hi, we're here today with Sandra Shellis, Director of Human Resources and EEO from the State University of New York at Buffalo State, and Barbara Pell, Manager of Employee Relations and Affirmative Action at the Research Foundation for SUNY Central Office. Thank you, ladies, for joining me today.
Thank you.
Today they're going to be investigating complaints.
Yes, the procedures for solving problems in the workplace or resolving allegations of discrimination.
Okay.
And these are Research Foundation procedures. The first thing you would determine was which procedure you're going to follow when an employee comes to you. And the employee will be coming to you to let you know of a situation. It doesn't always happen that an employee comes to you. That way you learn different ways. Mostly that is how it happens. At my campus, the first thing that I would do is take information, determine if it's a formal or an informal process that I'm going to follow for this complaint.
And you would also, at that point, be figuring out whether you would be using the procedure for solving problems in the workplace or the procedure for resolving allegations of workplace discrimination, correct?
Absolutely. With your leadership and guidance, as always, which I cannot stress enough, and RF Legal as well. So the first thing I would do is I would plan my investigation if it's determined that I need one. If it is not determined that I need one, I would suggest to the employee that they meet with their supervisor as per the solving problems in the workplace procedure first, that they always have the policy, that they know what they need to do, that they follow it, and we will guide them. If it is a formal investigation, I would be planning. I would plan my schedule. I would see what is the complaint, who are the witnesses, what type of documents I need, what kind of follow-up. Once I have the overview of my investigation, the pieces would be who, what, where, when, why, how long, how often. That's the ingredient, the main ingredient of a good investigative conversation. And you always must make sure that you can't assure confidentiality. There could be future legal action. So any of this could be discoverable in a court of law.
So what we like to say with that is that, we will keep information confidential to the extent that we can.
I agree, absolutely. Because we have to make sure that RF Legal is always cognizant so they can give us the guidance on the statutes and the legal issues that we may not be apprised of at the moment we're doing an investigation.
And that's where central office comes in to guide, campus HR administrators in, these procedures and the process for investigating a complaint.
Absolutely. So I'd say after you're fairly confident that you've covered every base, that you have interviewed the witnesses, that you've collected all the documents, the follow-up, and the final documentation. The final documentation is your report, your investigation report. And you never have to do that alone, because that's where central office comes in to help.
Exactly. We are happy to assist a campus with, a full investigation, the steps involved, the process of an investigation, and also in report writing and what's contained in a final report of an investigation.
I agree. And it's usually a very good process when we work together.
It's
Always
a
a
great
good
process. And we really encourage campuses who have these complaints to come to central office for, employee relations help, for legal help, which we coordinate. I will coordinate with an attorney, and we strongly urge you to do that when you have a complaint.
Once those pieces of the plan are put in action, it works. And I'm very appreciative of the fact that I have the support at the campus of the Research Foundation. It works also.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Barbara.
Put in there that sometimes in all the, fever of a complaint, you may forget to interview the complainant, the person who's made the complaint.
Themselves.
And that's a really important piece, is to, hear their side, in addition to, and that, then you want to use your witnesses to corroborate, what the or not what
Do
the
you
what the
suggest-
complainant has said.
Do you suggest interviewing the complainant first? I've looked at it differently in the different situations. I've interviewed the supporting witnesses and then the complainant last. I get, at least in some of my experience, I've gotten a more detailed insight into what the issues are.
I like that idea. It doesn't often happen that way. People are anxious to talk to the complainant first, but you've already got their complaint. So that is a great idea because you've had time to review the complaint, you've had time to, ask witnesses, what they saw, what they heard, you've been able to look at documents, and then you've been able to go back to the actual complaint, look at that, and have almost a different set of
Yes.
questions than you would ever have.
I agree,
If you
totally.
did it, if you interviewed the complainant first. So I like that. And actually, I'll say that in a recent investigation that I did at another campus, we actually did all of the upfront work like you're suggesting and talked to a lot of witnesses using, obviously the complaint of the person, who was, well, the complainant who was bringing it, but it was brought against another person. So we waited until the end to actually investigate with the complainant and talk to that person, and I think it really helped.
Well, you had a lot more information.
You have a lot more information, things are clearer to you, and you can almost really decide or corroborate, what's been said or not.
And we want to make the fairest decisions in these situations, and we want to treat all similarly situated employees similarly.
Exactly.
There you go.
So I think that is probably going to be put before
Somewhere.
we get into the final report.
Okay, that's
And as long
fine.
as it
Not
doesn't
only
rain.
that it's uncomfortable, but, and we could probably use some of this, it's not only uncomfortable, but you have the complaint. So you naturally think, why do
you
I
don't
need
need
to
to.
talk to the complainant?
But you're
It's
always
a
going to
natural, I think it's a natural mistake, but it's one that's, overlooked, and we have to
You're
make
gonna
sure we
learn
talk
so
to the
much
complainant.
from them that they may have left out in the original complaint, even if
Oh,
it's
and-
to a negative outcome.
Absolutely.
Affirmative outcome, negative outcome, they have a lot of information. They've brought the complaint forth. They're not always valid complaints, but that's what the investigation process is all about.
Well-
Learning what is actually factual, what happened in the situation to be able to come to the outcome. Okay. It's all right. I think we got a lot here. I hope this is helpful to other people that don't have, or don't get a lot of this. And
So I'm curious as to the difference between you finding it a complaint and investigating the complaint and the process for the discrimination. How are the processes different?
I think the processes are similar. It's the outcome that you're going to learn that's different, and what happens as a result of that outcome.
Yeah, the processes are very similar. Actually, both of the procedures, have a process for informal and formal, resolution. And the steps of both of those procedures are very similar. Even the time limits on, responding and getting your report done are very similar. So there aren't a lot of differences. It's really, I think the key is, which procedure do you use? And you'll clearly know from the complaint that you get whether someone, is alleging discrimination on a protected trait, or whether it's really just a workplace issue like, I haven't gotten a salary increase in a long time, my supervisor is a monster, that's,
And even
you can
then-
clearly tell from a complaint.
But even then, with the supervisor issues, you have to be able to distinguish whether it goes into the realm of a discriminatory act. Supervisors may be difficult, but are they bullying? Are they
Exactly.
actually doing illegal behaviors as a supervisor? Are they abusing their responsibility? And that's all learned throughout the investigative process. But up front, you will know you'll know if it's discriminatory. Also, when something's discriminatory, the complainants are typically much more emotional and much more upset because they feel that their civil rights have been violated, and you can see that. When there are workplace squabbles and level of emotion seems to be, at least in my experience, a little less. They want something, but it's not where they have been violated. And that's where you really have to be able to adjust your tone and your composure. A lot of things come into doing these investigations. A lot of behaviors that you have to be able to eliminate when you're sitting with an employee that's clearly distraught or upset, so that you can calm them. But you also need to get the information that you need to get.
And you need to get it objectively, not subjectively, because it's very easy. It's very easy for an investigator to say from the get-go that, oh, this is just, a frivolous complaint. But you really need to be, as Sandra said, you need to be thorough and you need to be objective when you're doing an investigation. Very,
Almost
very
uncovering
important.
your own unconscious bias before you even begin, and make sure that
Absolutely.
if you do feel that you have one, leave it outside the door.
And that's a key, is to keep it professional when you're doing an investigation. Very important.
I'd say one more piece that if we can fit this in, is when you're planning your investigation and you're going to be interviewing witnesses, it may seem overwhelming, but I always have someone with me. And we do it together. And I will take notes. I typically will type my notes. The person that I choose will write their notes. And we're then comparing, because we both may hear something different or we may miss something. And a lot of the investigation training and documentation does include the fact that maybe you should have someone with you.
And I think that is a wonderful idea. In a recent investigation that I did, I actually was the person who was asking the prepared questions of the complainant, and I had someone there who was taking notes, who had the questions with them and was taking notes about what the complainant said, so that I was sure that I did not miss anything.
Absolutely.
And it's a
critical.
Wonderful practice. I can't think of many situations anymore where I would do one-on-one, but I mean, you can do them. I mean, certainly if you're, without staff, but I strongly suggest having someone with you, just for another set of ears.
And the procedure does indicate that you could also form an ad hoc committee if
Absolutely.
it is required. I would excuse myself from a complaint that was too close, that was within my office. I would then look for those individuals, and I do have a pool of people that I work with that are ready to form a committee or to actually perform an investigation if it's something that I know that I have to excuse myself from because I may not be able to be an impartial investigator.
That's a very important fact, because you really need to recuse yourself as an investigator if you have, a personal relationship with the complainant, if they happen to work in your same office and you feel that you would not be able to, be unbiased.
So would you pull in SUNY people? If you have if you're a campus that has a very small staff, or you're very close knit, then would you pull in like a SUNY HR person to assist?
Well,
I think that would depend.
Yeah, it is. It's really situational. Have ready.
I really prefer to have RF people on an ad hoc committee, but obviously at many of our campuses, our HR administrator is a SUNY, employee. So,
Yeah.
we certainly allow that because, of resources.
Case
But
by
it's
case.
okay. But I would say on an ad hoc committee, you would want to have, more RF than SUNY, because they're not familiar with our processes unless they're doing, our business, regularly on a daily basis.
Okay.
Or you have them coached and trained to do just that. Step in and become part of an investigation. On our campus, I have a pool of RF resource people that I have already coached and trained in my absence who would be able to step in and do an investigation.
All right. So Sandra and Barbara, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your knowledge.
Oh,
You're very welcome.
You're very welcome, and we were happy to do this.
Thank you.